Hey, Yinning at Life gang, it's Kimberley Roberts of the SolefulYin brand. I'm here to dish out all things about traditional Chinese medicine, Yin Yoga, reflexology, and of course, I'm here to disrupt your mind. So, thanks so much for pressing play on today's episode. Let's do this. So, what do you want? Like, when I ask that question of my clients, I often get, well, I don't want this and I don't want that. And I'm like, but I'm not asking you that. I'm asking you, what do you want? They're like, but I don't want, and I'm like, I didn't ask you what you don't want. I'm asking you what you do want. And here's the thing, this is what I want to ref about today is the idea of what do we want in our life? Because at the end of the day, we are the only person out there who can create our own life. It's nobody else's job. It's just yours, right? And yours alone. And so you have the free will to do whatever you want to do. If you want to be like President of the United States, like God help you, go for it, right? Like whatever it is that you want. And I remember when I was a kid, I had this book and it was basically like every year of your life, right? And at the beginning of each section, it always started with the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do? And I remember be like, oh, I want to be airline stewardess. I want to be a model. I want to be a veterinarian. I want to be an astronaut, right? Like all these crazy ideas. Not that any of those are like bad things. They're great. But it was like, obviously, I didn't end up being any of those things. And that's okay because I'm totally doing what I love now. And that's all that matters. But when I finished high school, of course, it was always like, next step is you go to university, right? So I went to university, did the thing, got the degree, got the master's, and then, got a job, good job. And then, of course, like got the guy, got married, got the house, right? And I remember after I got married, the first thing my dad said to me was, so when are the kids coming? And I'm like, what kids? And he's like, yours. He's like, you and Dave, when are you going to have kids? And I'm like, um, we're not having kids. And he's like, what? What do you mean you're not having kids? And I'm like, we're not having kids. And he's like, seriously? And I was like, no, it's not what we want. And he's like, well, did you talk to Dave about it? And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, we're both actually really aligned to this. Neither one of us want to have children. He's like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, nothing's wrong with me. It's just, this is not what I want. Right. And that's okay. But I remember my parents being so disappointed about the fact that it's like, you're not going to have kids. Well, your sister had kids, so you should have kids. And I'm like, no, it's not what I want. Right. And he's like, oh, and I was like, you know what I want? And he's like, well, you're going to tell me. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I want to have a life where I have a lot of freedom. And children are a lifetime commitment. They're a beautiful commitment. Don't get me wrong. I love kids. I think they're fantastic. I babysat my nephews like when they were little and absolutely loved them. I still love them now and they're adults. But I was like, I just don't want that commitment in my life, right? Like call it selfish, whatever. But to have children just for the sake of like, well, you're a woman and you should have children is like, that's not the reason to have kids. You want to have kids because you want to have children, right? And that leads me to like what you want. So I'm going to talk a lot about women in this particular episode, okay? I mean, some of this can apply to the dudes out there for sure, but I want to talk to the women here about what you want because we are often stereotyped into a very small little box of like who we are meant to be. Yes, we can procreate. Our body is a beautiful vessel for creating life. Absolutely. Does that mean you have to do that with your body? No. If that's not what you want, it's not what you want. So you have the ability to do whatever it is that you want. Like anything is on the table for you if you believe it. So, I mean, if I wanted to be an astronaut, seriously, if I wanted to be an astronaut, I could take all the inspired, aligned actions and become an astronaut, even at 57, if that's what I really wanted. Obviously, it's not what I want. So when I always circle back with with my clients and I tell them like, what do you want? I'm like, you know what? I'm like, really think about that because you could literally be, do, or have anything. And a few years ago, a friend of mine had gone to a Tony Robbins event, if you can call them events. They're incredible events, right? A live event. And this was way back when he was still producing CDs of his events. So you could actually like take the CDs home, right? The recordings of everything. And so she gave me the recordings because she was like, I went to the live event. I got all the things. She's like, I want you to have this. And I remember sitting there and I put in the first CD because it was like a stack of CDs. And I remember hearing him, Tony Robbins, say, what do you want? And I was like, oh, that's kind of a good question. What do I want? And he was like, because whatever you desire, you can have. It's just you have to have the belief behind it. And I was like, I have to have the belief behind it. Yeah, okay. He's like, you don't need the evidence that it could happen. You need the belief. And you see, this is where we often get really messed up in our head when it comes time to that because our primal brain is always looking for the evidence. Okay, well, if I want this, I want to have the evidence that it's all going to work out and it's going to be perfect and it's going to be like all packaged in a nice little box with a pretty little bow on the top of it. And there's not going to be any shit that's going to happen and it's just going to flow into my life seamlessly. Well, sometimes it actually does work that way, but a lot of times you get what we call calibration opportunities. These little tests, these little road bumps, like, you want this? Okay, well, you can have a, here's a little test. Are you sure you can handle this piece? Because you need to be at this level of a human being in order to be, do, or have whatever it is that you desire. If you can't handle this little road bump, how do you think you're going to actually be able to handle having it in your reality, right? So I was like, I can have anything. I can be anything. But I, even though conceptually at the time I got it, like my conscious mind got it, my subconscious mind was still looking for the evidence of like, yeah, okay, well, really, you want to have your own like reflexology business? Where you're living in a conservative government-based town where people are not as open-minded. Now, let me say that this was like 15 years ago, okay? So that's a lot different now. Now reflexology is very mainstream. I have a full client base, like I'm fully booked every single week. People love reflexology. They know that it's so much more than just a foot massage. And even the people that come to see me for feet related concerns always know that there's like, oh my God, like something else is happening in my body and I love it, right? But back then, I was like, okay, in theory, I'm like, yeah, I can have this really successful business. But my subconscious mind was doubting it. It's like, well, who's going to believe in this? People are going to just think it's a foot massage. And guess what? That's what happened for many years. I struggled and struggled and struggled until I changed my belief around it. And I started to realize that, you know what? I thought right from the beginning that reflexology is more than a foot massage because I experienced it for myself. So I was like, if I believe it, that's all that matters because that's the type of energy I'm going to put out into this world is that I believe it. And so I'm going to get back people who also believe it or who are at the very least maybe very open-minded to it, even if they don't necessarily know how it works, right? And as soon as I changed that belief, it was almost like a switch went off in my head. It was like all of a sudden I started getting busier. All of a sudden, people coming out of nowhere, right? And during the pandemic, things kind of like dismantled in that area. But now, fast forward like almost like 5 years later, like I have a thriving reflexology business full of people who absolutely 100% believe in the power of it. And it's incredible. So I believed even when I wasn't seeing the evidence, like during the pandemic and even post pandemic, when I lost a lot of my clients, simply because people were just not in a position to afford, paying out of pocket, I still believed that I could attract the type of people who were interested. I didn't need the evidence. And I didn't, well, to be honest with you, I didn't have the evidence. Like sometimes there'd be a whole week where I went off, where I didn't have a single pair of feet to play with, like not a single. So, but I just kept saying, you know what? There are people out there who are willing, able, and wanting to invest in their health and well-being and want to do so with reflexology and are more than happy to pay for my services. And I will tell you that recording went on in my head over and over and over and over again until it literally became my belief. And then all of a sudden it was like appointment booked, appointment book, appointment book. All these new people just kept coming into my world. Now I do have the evidence, but I started with not having evidence at all, just a belief that I could have it, that I could do it, that I could be. Now I have my own app and I have people practicing from all over the world yin yoga on my app, right? I started with the belief because I wanted to build this. I saw an opportunity, especially after the pandemic. There were so many opportunities that have opened up to us. And I really want you to hear this. Like, if you're sitting out there and you're starting to contemplate, what do I want? What could I have? I will tell you that starting any kind of online business, I don't care what it is. Maybe you're like basket weaving. Maybe you're like somebody who like creates like names for babies, like really eccentric names or something like that. And you have a database full of them and you sell them or something like that. It doesn't matter what it is. The point is that if you believe that you can create it, if you believe that you can have it, then I will tell you the universe will do all of its like gathering of components to put everything together in a box for you and literally go, here you go. Here's how you're going to do it. And that's the thing. Like, you are never creating your life on your own. You are co-creating it with the guy upstairs, the universe, whatever you want to call him, universe, God, source, angels, spirit, whatever it is. You are always co-creating. It's just, are you paying attention? Like, are you seriously paying attention to the downloads that you're getting from the person upstairs, right? And a lot of the times we're not, because you know what we're not doing? We're not pausing long enough to listen in. We're like these little hamsters on a wheel, and we're just like round and around and around and around we go with our life. And we're never taking time to pause. I will tell you a secret. Maybe it's not a secret to you, but it could be a secret. My yin yoga practice, along with meditation and breath work, have been transformative. I want to say that transformative in me creating all the things that I desire, including 4 successful businesses now. And it's because I use these tools as my opportunity to pause. And when I can pause, my mind gets clear, I can focus. And if there's, you know, limiting thoughts that are coming in that are telling me, no, it's not possible, whether it's fear-based, irritation, frustration, worry, whatever it is, I can address it through my yin practice. Because yin yoga is so much more than just a physical stretch. It is a vehicle. It is a powerful vehicle for releasing emotions that are trapped inside your organs. Emotions like fear, doubt, worry, anxiety, irritation, frustration, right? These are all normal emotions. Part of being a human being in this human experience, in this thing called life, are these emotions. They're not good. They're not bad. They're just emotions. They're indicators of where you are at and what might need to shift. But if you are not taking time to pause, even 5 minutes a day, then where are you going to get the downloads? Your mind is already rattling, thinking about the 50,000 things that you have to do that day. It doesn't have time to think about what you want. That's why you pause. And I will tell you, when I first moved into this condo, after I left my alcoholic husband of 20 years, I barely had any kind of income. I only had my reflexology business, and back then it was not stable. It wasn't solid. So I didn't have like a base recurring revenue that I could count on. Like you get a paycheck every 2 weeks and like I had no idea from month to month how much money I was going to make. And it was really, really stressful, like not knowing, right? But eventually, as I started to work more on my mindset and I started to believe more in myself and my abilities, and I even used to tell myself, like, I'm an incredible reflexology therapist. Like, and I would believe it because I am. Like my patients, my clients would tell me that all the time. Oh my God, you're so good. And I'd be like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But I wasn't really like, I wasn't really letting it sink in. I wasn't allowing myself to accept that this is one of my gifts. And I'll tell you, if you're sitting out there and you're thinking, I don't have a gift, yes, you do. You weren't put on this earth for no reason. Everybody is here for a reason. It's just the beauty is figuring out, well, what's your reason for being here? Your why. And when you pause every single day, you get the clarity and you get the insight. The universe will drop you a little like nugget. Oh, do this. That's your inspired action that's going to move you forward and closer to what it is that you want. That's why I say you're never in this journey by yourself. It's not like, oh, I have this huge dream, this huge desire, and I got to figure all the things out myself. No, I don't. The universe comes in and it'll drop you a little nugget. And I'll tell you, it works when you pause, when you tune inward. 5 minutes a day. Can you do that? Can you do that for 5 minutes a day? Is just pause, breathe, maybe get into a yin pose, maybe just sit in a meditation position, focus on your breath. Maybe you tune into some vibes, some music, some, healing frequencies to get you kind of in that mood and that energy. And I'll tell you that sometimes, like, you'll sit and you'll be expecting the answer from the universe, like right then. Don't, because sometimes it doesn't come to you right then in that moment, right? Like I will tell you, I start off every yin practice, every meditation, breath work, and I always say to the universe, I have a desire. And my desire right now is to take hundreds of thousands of people to transformation in their body, in their mind, and in the soles of their feet. What piece of inspired, aligned action can you give me today that is going to help me move the needle forward in the direction of creating that reality? Like it's literally, I say it every single day, every single time that I meditate or that I pause and go into a yin pose, or, obviously I do it first thing in the morning before I even get out of bed. It's literally as soon as I wake up because I know my subconscious mind is very powerful at that time. And it's the last thing that I do at night. So am I going to sit there and go, okay, I asked, where's my answer? No, I just let it go. Sometimes I get the clarity right away. Like I could be right in the middle of my meditation. All of a sudden it's like, yeah, you should do this. Great. Sometimes it's like a few hours later. Sometimes it's a couple of days. I don't know. I don't track it. The reality is that I just ask because I know that I am not the only person who is creating my life. I've got a higher power up there that's helping me. that's giving me the insight. And I'll tell you, when you know that you don't have to figure it all out on your own, it takes the pressure off, it takes the resistance out of the way. And you're like, okay, I'm not in a rush. Universe is going to drop me the things when it aligns. And the thing is that when you get that nugget of whatever it is, move, move on it right away as soon as you can. Don't sit there and think, oh, okay, I just got this download, this great idea, and then start overanalyzing it because you're going to kill it right there. As soon as you get that hit, you're like, oh, I want to do this. If you can do it right there, like if you are physically able, if you are in a situation where you can pause and go, yeah, I'm going to go do that right now, then do it. If you can't, do it as soon as you can, because I'll tell you, the longer you wait, the more your mind is going to come in and throw out that resistance bomb at you and do all the things to dissuade you from taking that inspired aligned action. It'll come up with the excuses. That's not possible. That's ridiculous. It's going to take too long. No one's going to buy in. Whatever it is, let me tell you, your mind will come up with the answers. And it comes up with the answers because it's scared, because it's hearing all of a sudden this different dialogue of like, oh God, Kim wants this? Whoa, wait a minute. We've never done that before. Yeeks. No, no, we can't do it. It's just not possible. And then we give up. And then the universe is sitting up there going, hello, I just sent you a really good bomb here of like inspired action to take, and you just dropped the ball. You just gave up. And you're sitting down there going, but it's too hard. I can't do it. No one's gonna like me. Blah, 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 blah. Right? Like, sure. I will tell you that as soon as I started getting more visible on social media and on other platforms like YouTube, my followers started dropping. And I knew exactly why. Because I'm actually out here using my voice, speaking my mind, finally. And you know what? To be frank with you, if you're sitting on the other end of this and you're like, I don't like you, I'm like, I don't care. I don't. I'm not here for the likes. I'm here to help you transform your life, to maybe shorten the gap between where you were at and where you want to go. Because I'll tell you, my gap was decades long. I'm 57 years old now. I've been doing this work like since my late 20s, and only in the last few years, like less than 5 years, have I actually nailed it and gotten this. And I understand how my mind really works and how I can use it to my advantage. Decades, people, decades. I don't want you to have decades. I don't have regrets. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't be able to sit here and spiel this out on this podcast if I didn't have those decades, what I call basically healing experiences along my journey. But I would love to shorten the gap for you. I would love to show you just how powerful yin yoga can be, how it can be so much more than just stretching out your hips and your hamstrings. Don't get me wrong, that's cool stuff too, but don't you kind of want more? I do. So I want to shorten that gap for you. I'm not here to do the work for you. I don't want you to get misunderstood there. The work is yours to do. I'm just giving you some tools that you can put in your toolkit that you can take out when you want and use them. That's it. What you do with the tools is entirely up to you. But if I'm giving them to you, like today's episode is kind of like a little mini mindset or mentoring coaching session, for lack of better words, right? And I want you to take the nuggets that you get out of it. But the most important thing that I want you to get out of this episode is that it is your life and you have complete control over how you want to use it. Life will throw you things and you'll be in situations where it's like, yeah, I didn't want that. Life is going to life you, but it's how you control your response that matters. It's the only thing, especially when it's something that it's not going the way you want. It's like, okay, well, I don't like this, but I can control how I'm going to respond and react to it. But that's where pausing comes in because it gives us the ability to be paused instead of reactive in the moment. And we all know what it's like when we kind of just snap and react without thinking clearly. You usually end up saying something or doing something that you regret. And I don't want that for you. So you control your response, but you as sure as hell can decide, what do you want for your life? Who do you want to be? What role do you want to step into? What do you want to create? What kind of impact do you want to make in this world? Even if your impact is to affect one single person, it's beautiful. Whatever it is, as long as it matters to you, that's all that matters. So I'm going to leave you with this question. What do you want? What do you want? You can post it in the show notes, in the comments, let me know. You can private DM me if you want to. If you want to work with me, come and check out the SolefulYin app. I'll leave the link in the show notes. You can download my app. You can come and practice with me, and you can start to contemplate how to create your best life. So thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. Namaste.